So I went live a little faster than I meant to. I'm having significant technical difficulties here, but hello, I'm Ashley Roberts. I am with Dyslexia Houston, and if you'll bear with me for half a second, I am almost done resolving my technical issues. So, there you go. Please work. Please work. Yay, you worked. Been searching my house for half an hour just trying to find a charger for my almost dead phone. That didn't work too well for me. Anyway, thank you for coming today. I hope that it's a beautiful Sunday where you are. I know it is where I am. But I just kind of wanted to change the pace a little bit and take a step back and first off introduce myself. You've seen me in several lives at this point, and most of you know my name is Ashley, and thank you so much for being here and for following our page. Why am I here? I'm here because I have absolutely the most amazing gift that I've ever been granted in my life, and he is the center of my universe. He is the compass that guides me at night and at day and in every waking moment. He's my heartbeat, he is my love, and he is my child. And he is 9, and he is in the 4th grade, and he just happens to be dyslexic and dysgraphic. He hit the wall really hard at 7 years old when he was in 1st grade, approaching the end of 1st grade, as a matter of fact. And his dad and I had no idea what was going on. And the night that he hit the wall just shattered us both into a million pieces, and we started off on this journey. I think some of you maybe follow my blog. I have my own personal blog called A Mom's Journey, My Dyslexic Life. And in there I talk specifically about this little path that my son and I take together trying to traverse the dyslexic world. I know I write in there a lot about what it means to be a parent advocate, and I kind of want to clarify that real quick. I am a parent advocate. I don't know that I ever want to be anything more. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I like being a parent advocate, and I like that that's my role in life. Would I like to have the expertise of a professional advocate? Absolutely. Will I ever pursue that path? Today, my answer is, honestly, I don't know. And I don't know that I ever want to. But as a parent advocate, I don't think that that is anything to be ashamed of. I think that that's something rather beautiful and something that I should be very proud of, and something that every other parent out there that has a dyslexic child should be very, very proud of. The fact that they get to advocate for their child, the fact that they are a parent and they get to label themselves as a parent advocate. That's pretty darn amazing in my book. And I think that we need to celebrate that a lot more. Because our kids are amazing. There's nothing wrong with them. Dyslexia is a disability if we never do anything about it, if we never help our children, if we never guide our children, if we never get them to where they need to be. If we just let them flounder, then their dyslexia becomes a disability. And there is no cure. This is something that they're going to live with their entire lives. And there's nothing wrong with that if we celebrate what they are and who they are, and the fact that there's nothing wrong with them. Truly, there's nothing wrong with them. But why am I here with Dyslexia Houston, with Discovering Dyslexia? Why am I here? I didn't like the fact that when I started off on this journey that I felt completely alone. That I spent weeks Googling for answers. I never even thought to go to Facebook, but I spent weeks Googling for answers. You know, I'm in I don't know if we're the third or the fourth largest city. I think we're the third at this point, largest city in the nation. And I spent weeks Googling for answers and couldn't find any answers. That was absolutely crazy to me. That was ludicrous to me. The fact that it was so hard to set forth on this path to try to find, first to try to find a diagnostician, to try to find somehow, some way to teach him. My son couldn't read at all. He didn't know the letters of most of the sounds of the alphabet, and he certainly couldn't blend two letters together to make a sound in order to save his life. I resented the fact that it was that hard, and my nature is of such that I didn't want it to be that hard for anybody else. And so I set out just trying to find community and find answers. And for a little while, a short little while, I did find a community. And unfortunately, what I learned was that particular community was not a community that I really wanted to be a part of, because they weren't as supportive as I wanted them to be. But during that particular point in my life, I made some rather amazing friends. And it was with those friends, those sisters on this path, if you will, that I'm in this current phase of my life, and I'm grateful to be here. But I feel very compelled to share what I learn and to try to pass it forward and to try to help as many parents as I can. I'm not perfect. There's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot that I'm still learning. I will never claim to be perfect. I will never claim to know everything. But what I do hope that I can always be is a friend, is somebody that my fellow parents on this path can turn to, that I'm somebody that they can rely on, that they know that if they ask me a question that I might not know the answer, but you know what, I'm going to work gosh darn hard to help them find that answer, to help them make the connections that they need to make in order to find out what they need to find out. Because that's part of my own journey myself, is just trying to find the answers. And I'll ask every single person I know the exact same question. And some of them are going to go, you know what, that's a great question, I don't know. Some of them are going to express their own personal experiences and their own personal opinions. Some of those opinions hopefully will be helpful. I'll leave that there. And when I'm given answers, I hope that they're the right answers and given to me in the sincerest form possible. And with the circle that I have, with the network that I have, I think that that's what I'm blessed with receiving. And I just want to help people find that same circle, that same path. And I hope that I can be a part of those people's paths and those people's inner circles of support. But in all of this, I've been talking to so many people lately since it's Dyslexia Awareness Month. Ella Sheva said something really powerful to me when we were trying to get ready when we were initially setting up our lives. And she said, every parent feels like that they're an island onto themselves. And I was like, you know what, you're absolutely right. I never was able to put it quite so eloquently, but that's exactly how we feel. And then yesterday, part of Mary's advice was building your circle. And that's a great way to put it as well. But to understand that we're not islands alone. But that's something that we've really got to fix. No parent starting out on this journey should feel like that they're on an island alone, but absolutely every single one of us does. And that really bothers me. That really upsets me. But that's part of, to me, the secrecy, almost the shame that we have about dyslexia as a whole. there's so much misinformation, there's so much silence, there's so much denial. There's, I can use all kinds of words at this point to describe what it is, but shame is really kind of the best word I think that I can use to describe it. And I'm thinking of shame more from the Brene Brown perspective, how she talks about shame specifically. But we clothe dyslexia because there is so much understanding. We clothe dyslexia in so much shame, and we really need to stop doing that. And until we stop doing that, I'm afraid that parents are going to continue to be an island unto themselves. We really must embrace what this is, and we must celebrate it, and we must lift our children onto our shoulders and throw them up into the air with excitement and, shout, "Well done, you." Think about how amazing that would be. Think about how much our kids would just thrive. A, if we taught them the way that they needed to learn. B, we gave them evidence-based programs, not research-based programs. I'm becoming very passionate about that particular piece, in case you couldn't tell. But in removing the stigma and lifting our kids onto our shoulders, it's going to be something so much more powerful, something nobody should be ashamed of, and therefore no parent would ever feel like that they're on an island alone. I mean, I think my life would be significantly better if it hadn't kind of started out that way. Anyway, why this particular community that we're trying to shape is so important. We're trying to create, with Dyslexia Houston and with what Discovering Dyslexia is, what we're trying to build is just a community of parents. We want to help you build your inner circle of support and of people to rely on, and people to specifically be there with you and help you find those answers. We're all just parents. Every single one of us here at Dyslexia Houston and Discovering Dyslexia, we're just parents, just like you. And we just want to help. We just want to be there. And we think by building this community that we can build something pretty awesome. So we hope that you'll join us there and be a part of that community. But in that, and in talking about community, I want to talk about something very specific, and something that's really been quite, I don't want to say painful, but maybe eye-opening would be a really good way to refer to it. I had the significant blessing of attending the Houston branch of the International Dyslexia Association's Fall Symposium yesterday. And Rick Lavoie was the keynote speaker, and I've got to tell you, it's one of the best speeches I've ever heard. And how that man had the energy and, just the enthusiasm to speak as long as he did was just, everything that he had to share was just absolutely breathtaking. I'm sorry, I keep trying to scratch and it's not working. But one thing that he really talked about was the denial and the acceptance of what dyslexia is. And I know that I shared a quote with him yesterday saying that what was the exact quote? It was something along the lines of the diagnosis of a learning disability can be more emotionally impactful than the diagnosis of any other sort of disability. And part of what he talked about was the fact that when the child is born, if they have a physical challenge that's obvious, that tends to be obvious. I know that's not obvious with absolutely every single diagnosis, but that tends to be obvious right off the bat. He used Down syndrome as a specific example. But what he talked about was the learning disability itself, whether that's dyslexia or ADHD or dysgraphia, dyscalculia, anything within that gamut. And within the denial process, there's anger, there's flight, there's guilt, there's blame, there's envy, There's isolation, there's mourning, there's bargaining, there's fear, and there's depression. And there's behaviors related to all of those things before you move on to acceptance of that diagnosis. And one of the things that I've come to realize in managing a page on Facebook and the way that certain people comment is that we're all in the moment when we see information, when we see comments, when we see posts, etc. We are all coming at that post, that thing, from our own personal experience and where we are at that very specific time. And not everybody's in this, grand kumbaya place of acceptance. And depending upon where that person is, they're reacting from a very personal pain, a very personal defensive position. And one thing that I would like to see us all doing is to start to be a little bit more respectful of that. And I'm not saying that based on any comments on Dyslexia Houston or on Discovering Dyslexia, but in my own personal interactions with people physically in front of me, people have said some things and have done some things that have truly either taken my breath away out of shock, out of anger, out of all kinds of things. And sometimes I'm able to step back and say, I feel that way because of my own personal pain and my defensiveness with where I am emotionally today, versus sometimes I'm not able to take that step back and recognize that they're coming at it from their own personal pain and defensiveness and where they are emotionally that particular day. And I think that that's something that we don't all understand or grant each other. And part of that is because we can't see past our own pain. And I would like to see us all as a community start to give each other more grace, give each other more acceptance, give each other more space, if you will, to feel the pain and allow that person to feel the pain and respect their pain. And another thing I really wanted to point out was judgment. I saw a video recently. I don't know how many people saw this. I think a friend of mine in the UK posted this video, so I don't know how viral it's gone. But it was a bunch of women sitting on a playground. And each person had a different perspective. One person was breastfeeding their child until they were 5. One person was breastfeeding their child until they were 1. One person was pumping. One person was only using formula. One person did natural birth without drugs. One person did drugs. One person did, you get the point. Every person made a different choice about their mothering style. And each person's comment to the other was overwhelming in their judgment. And I know that we, as women especially, kind of joke about that, about how we can't judge each other, but then we find ourselves judging each other. What I'm finding within our community itself is that judgment is rife. I had a chat with somebody on Tuesday night who is a licensed dyslexia therapist, who they kind of didn't have anything very kind to say to me. The judgment pouring forth from this person was quite devastating to me. It was quite overwhelming. I was really quite taken aback by the kinds of things that she said to me. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the conversation, what she looked at me was, she was like, you're failing your child absolutely every single day. Nothing that you're doing is right. And I kind of don't want to talk to you anymore. And I was just overwhelmed by that judgment. And I couldn't get away from her fast enough. And then I turned around and I met a couple of very beautiful souls, all of whom were diagnosticians, and we sat down and we just talked and we had a great time and everybody laughed, and there was no judgment there. There was no angst. There was no nothing bad, nothing negative. And I've spent the last several days just sort of thinking about that and thinking about the different interactions that I've had with people, whether they're other parent advocates or they're professionals or they think that they're professionals or whatever that may be. We all just need to be supporting each other. We need to shelve the judgments. We need to shelve treating each other the way that we do. And again, I'm not saying that everybody that's on my page is doing that. I'm just saying that we as a community tend to do that to each other, and that's something that really needs to come to an end. But again, that's why I'm trying to work with the women, the amazing women that I'm working with, just trying to build a community. Because it's something that's so important to us, is just building that community and creating that support for one another and helping each other do as much as we can with the best that we can with what we know. The thing that I tend to tell parents is you can only do the best that you can do at the time that you have to make that decision. I moved from private school to public school here in the wonderful, glorious state of Texas, thinking that federal law would protect us automatically, immediately, and my son would get absolutely everything that he ever needed. How naive was that? I mean, just mind-blowingly naive. But you know what? That was the information that I had at that time. I was just starting out on this journey, and that was all that I knew. That's what I had been told, and gosh darn it, I dove feet first into the public education puddle here in the great state of Texas and thought everything was going to be fine and dandy. God, do I know better now. But that's just, that particular lesson in my life is something that stands out very poignantly to me. And that's why I'm trying to make the point of we're all doing the best that we can at the time that we make our decisions, that we make our choices, and why the judgment has got to be shelved, and we've just got to support each other. And our community will be so much stronger for it. So now that I've sort of made those points, I'm going to wrap up with one final point, and that is, gosh, my technical difficulties just keep continuing. My phone's almost dead. That is just sort of a call to arms, if you will. Don't be afraid to stand up. Don't be afraid to go with your gut. Don't be afraid to challenge your school. Don't be afraid to challenge their programs. Don't be afraid to go, I know what you just told me sounds so convincing and so believable, but I'm really not comfortable with that. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to just challenge the educational establishment. We're ingrained from 5 years old to 18 years old while we are in elementary, middle, and high school that our teachers and our administrators and our schools are the end-all, be-all power. We treat them with as much respect as we treat our parents. And that's a very powerful thing that's ingrained inside of our heads. And then we go to college and it's sort of the same thing. You're not really allowed to challenge your professor because, I did that once and I went from being all A's in my college to a D- in her class because I dared to challenge her, and it almost blew my ability to graduate. So we tread very carefully, and then, we hand our glorious, beautiful children over to the educational establishment, and we then comply with how we were trained. You don't question, you show respect, and what they say is true and accurate, and you must absolutely obey. Well, guess what? That's not how it is. I truly believe in my heart of hearts that almost every single teacher out there, and I will stand on that it's not all of them. Almost every single teacher out there truly wants what is best for our children. They wouldn't be teachers if they didn't want what was best for not just their own children, but the children that come through the doors of their classroom every single day. And I think that administrators started off that way as well. And many administrators still are. But there's a power that exists within the educational establishment that has brought about the reading wars and whole language and balanced literacy. And frankly, there's people that are against us. We've all seen it here in Texas with the TEA censure by the Federal Department of Education that Texas was in denial mode. I mean, everybody's read the series within the Houston Chronicle. But what I'm trying to get to is my message is just please don't blindly trust. Please, if your gut is challenging you that something is wrong, follow your gut, follow your instincts. We're here for you. We want to help you. We want to help answer your questions. If you're already on this path and you know it and the people around you aren't acknowledging Dyslexia Awareness Month, what can you do about it? Can you create a dyslexia awareness board at your school, at your district administration offices, at your local libraries? But the constant question that I myself, my very good friends, and everybody within our little community, and it's not a little community because it's 20% of our population, needs to be asking is, what more can we do? How do we break down the stigma? How do we break down these walls? How do we improve the lives for our dyslexic children? How do we improve education? What do we have to do? And we must band together in order to achieve all of that. So please join us. We've got a lot of great things coming. We've got more lives this month. We've got a lot of great notes being published. So I hope that you will continue to follow us on Dyslexia Houston and on Discovering Dyslexia. We've got several groups across the state: Tarrant, Collin, Yellow, so many more. Lois keeps creating groups, and it's wonderful, and we're growing so fast, but she creates them faster than I'm able to memorize them. I love her passion. But please just join us. Just help us do what we can. We're here for you. I'm here for you. Just tell me what you need. All right?